My name is Frank, as anti-psychiatry activist. This might take a while because I wrote something, okay? So bear with me, please. The mental health system doesn't just violate human rights. It is a human rights violation. So long as people are given a right to treatment without the right to refuse or decline that treatment, their rights have been run over roughshod. Across the street from us at the Javits Center, the evangelical high priest, some would say mafioso, of the mental illness religion are meeting. These guys and gals' lives, same as the lives of some of their captives, revolve around a belief in the chimera of mental illness. Mental illness is real to them, very real and devastating. It is this notion of mental illness that puts bread and butter on their tables and keeps them in business, sermonizing about its many evils, living somewhere out in the suburbs or in the high end of town.
It'll be you tomorrow.
They would collectively be up a creek without a paddle if there were no mental illness to attend to, or at least nobody who shared their belief, no laity, no suckers willing to invest in the same notion. The point I am trying to make here is that the notion of mental illness is a bill of goods. Listen to the high priest and you could be lost for life. You could be, through this belief, pursuing your own destruction to its ultimate conclusion in silent fear, shame, and grief. Hello. You've bought a bill of goods, lock, stock, and barrel. You've become a convert to this negative faith. You own it and everything that goes along with it. Should you, on the other hand, tune out the sermon, should you not listen to the high priest, should you doubt his absolute truth, should you reject his message and the obligado communion of drug taking that goes along with it, then the future once again becomes rosy with possibility and in fact suspenseful. No longer a matter of fate as if written in stone from before your birth. Reject the bill of goods and hope, less a matter of false hope, but real hope looms large. Mental health is the other side of mental illness. It keeps these goons in business providing treatment for what they say it is not. But mental health, just like mental illness, is a bill of goods. It is a concept devoid of meaning apart from its opposite number. Mental illness, a figure of speech, a metaphor, taken literally. Few people are physically sick upon entering the mental health system. However, I can guarantee you that if you were converted by the system, if you were to buy this bill of goods, if you were to be a compliant consumer, and if you were to receive long-term treatment for a so-called mental health condition, over an extended period of time, your physical health will deteriorate, and you will find yourself in poor physical health. Psychiatry is not about improving a person's status and state of being. Psychiatry is about providing treatment for the chimera I spoke of earlier, the holy grail of the profession, its cash cow, mental illness. The treatment for mental illness is a matter of making otherwise physically healthy individuals physically sick. Long-term compliance, often called adherence to a treatment plan, chiefly a drug-taking regimen, can prove deadly. Psychiatry is not about health at all. Psychiatry is about maintaining the social order and upholding the status quo. Eugenic principles still apply in the sense that psychiatry would quash any perceived disruption to the social order. And you don't quash anything by letting it be.
Not that I memorized it.
Rebellious youth, uppity women, angry blacks, peaceful soldiers, and discontented senior citizens all can find their ailments administered to by psychiatry in the mental health system. The object lesson of the system be, stick to your place, or we will put you in your place, even if it kills you. One of the callers in a teleconference leading up to this event suggested people review the speeches of Leah Harris and Laura Delano, which she thought particularly forceful. I say okay, but don't let any comparison between what you have to say and what those two women said then render you silent. You don't need to compare yourself with another to do a commendable job. Each and every one of us is a valuable person who has something worthwhile to express. Would psychiatry and the mental health system would silence people, would invalidate them, would treat them as worthless, like refuse or fecal matter, we don't have to respond in kind. Every person at this rally is a valuable person who has something of import to relay, and we should recognize that fact and not let anybody's contribution go to waste. The more voices, the more varied voices, the better, and the more impact as a whole we will be able to have. Renee Harlow. We used to compare suicide attempt scars. It is difficult to say, in his case, whether he got careless or successful. Todd Level. Our mothers owned the duplex we were next door neighbors in Charlottesville, Virginia. His sister, someone called intellectually challenged, living in a group home, still talks to my sister by telephone on almost a daily basis. Allison Himes, Bryn Mawr alumnus, blogger, advocate for human rights. She had a kidney transplant after lithium toxicity caused her own to fail. Phil Gare lived above what used to be a converted movie theater in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. He was something of a fixture in town, and he crossed paths with many local residents. Steve Weiner, Jew by birth, Steve Weiner, Jew by birth, Quaker, friend by choice and inclination. He had once, I believe, been a medical student at UVA before events intervened. Richard Applegate visited me in Gainesville, Florida after I had moved here from Virginia. He wanted to make the trip again. When I called a mutual acquaintance about visiting him on a trip north, it was then I found out about his demise. I'm going to stop here because my memory is foggy, but there are many more. All of these people have something in common. They are no longer with us, and in one fashion or another, they were all casualties of psychiatry. None of them lived to a ripe old age. Recently, I came across a comment Daniel Fisher made in a Mad in America blog. Daniel Fisher, who's right over there. Dan suggested the recent legislative failure on the part of our movement was due to the professionalization of peers and the divergence from its original ideals. I say, all right, let's go there, shall we? I first learned of and connected with what has come to be called the psychiatric survivor movement through a book and magazine, The Radical Therapist, later called Rough Times. The Radical Therapist published a statement and list of 9 demands from the Insane Liberation Front, the short-lived organization with which the psychiatric survivor movement originated. The list of demands was modeled, I hear, after the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party. Those demands that could be said to have been met at the present time, I find a little problematic. However, you could draw your own conclusions. Had it not been for that statement and that list of demands, I might not be here with you today. I will read it in its entirety. Hello, Insane Liberation Front. We of the Insane Liberation Front are former mental patients and people whom society labels as insane. We are beginning to get together, beginning to see that our problems are not individual, not due to personal inadequacies. But are a result of living in an oppressive society. I'm going to finish this anyway. And we're beginning to see that our so-called sickness is a personal rebellion in an internal revolt against this inhumane system. Insane Liberation will actively fight mental institutions and brutalization, the brutalization they represent, e.g. involuntary confinement, electroshock, the use of drugs, forced labor, beatings, and the constant affronts to our self-identity. Even in so-called progressive hospitals where many of the physical abuses do not occur, we're still made to feel low, that our concepts of who we are and our beliefs are pushed down so far that we often end up accepting our jailer society. We will fight to free all people imprisoned in mental institutions. Insane Liberation plans to establish neighborhood freakout centers. Freakout centers, where people with problems can get help from people who are undergoing or have undergone similar experiences. We believe that the only way people can be helped is through people helping each other. People with hang-ups being totally open and sincere to each other. The majority of shrinks, on the other hand, set themselves up as all-knowing authorities from their positions of power, automatically assume that the so-called mental patient is sick and not the society. We demand, with other liberation groups, an end to the capitalist system with its racist, sexist oppression and with its competitive anti-human standards. We believe in a socialist society based on cooperation. And here are the demands from Insane Manifesto. We demand an end to the existence of mental institutions and all oppression they represent, e.g. involuntary servitude, electroshock, use of drugs, and restrictions on freedom to communicate with the outside. 2, we demand that all people imprisoned in mental hospitals be immediately freed. 3, we demand the establishment of neighborhood freakout centers entirely controlled by the people who use them. A freakout center is a place where people, if they feel they need help, can get it in a totally open environment from people who are undergoing or who have undergone similar experiences. I see the freakout center as a place where there will be people who know where people freaking out are at because they have been there and they won't cut them off because they know how devastating it can be. The people that live and work there see themselves as no more sane than anyone that will come there. Everyone is insane and everyone freaks out. Insane Liberation plans to form freakout centers immediately. 4, we demand an end to mental commitments. 5, we want an end to the practice of psychiatry. The whole science of psychiatry is based on the assumption that there is something wrong with the individual rather than with society. We see psychiatry as a tool to maintain the present system. Rebelling often means being immediately sent to a shrink because of emotional disturbance. We see that the majority of shrinks, A, make money off our problems, B, see us as categories and objects. To them, we are an anxiety neurosis or a paranoid reaction instead of a human being. C, foster dependency instead of interdependency by making us distrust ourselves and consequently look for answers in the all-knowing God, the psychiatrist. Many psychiatrists have already used their influence to discredit the revolutionary movement by calling it sick. We see that this will continue and get worse. 6, we demand an end to economic discrimination against people who have undergone psychiatric treatment, and we demand that all their records be destroyed. 7, we want an end to sane chauvinism, intolerance towards people who appear strange and act differently, and that people be educated to fight against it. 8, we demand with other liberation groups an end to the capitalist system with its racist, sexist oppression, and with its competitive anti-human standards. We demand in a socialist society, based on cooperation. 9, we demand the right to the integrity of our bodies in all their functions, including the extremest of situations, suicide. We demand that all anti-suicide laws be wiped from the books. And that's the insane liberation from Portland, Oregon. Let me close by saying power to the people, all of the people, but especially power to those people who have been oppressed by the psychiatric system. Dare to struggle, dare to win. Together we can make a difference. Thank you.